My name is Christina. I've spent my entire life sacrificing for the sake of my family's comfort. I even gave up my longtime dream of joining Doctors Without Borders. Tonight was supposed to be the moment all my hard work paid off. The decorations are perfect, my mother Elizabeth whispered, helping me hang the celebration banner in the living room. But the catering might have been a bit over the top. My cheeks ached from exhaustion, but I forced a smile. It's a special occasion, Mom. The house is finally paid off. The doorbell rang. Within moments, our modest living room filled with family, friends, distant relatives, and a few neighbors. As usual, my sister Madison arrived late, wearing a designer outfit that probably cost more than my weekly salary. Christy, she called, enveloping me in a hug that reeked of expensive perfume. This food is amazing. You've always been so good at organizing things. Organizing things? Sure, if by organizing she meant coordinating back-to-back surgeries while she ping-ponged between casinos and new credit card applications. Everyone gather around. My father, George, called out, tapping his spoon against a glass. We have a wonderful announcement. This wasn't in the plan. I had prepared a speech about perseverance, about how we'd finally reach the finish line together. First, my father continued, let me thank Christy for organizing this lovely party. She's always been our rock. His voice grew louder. But the real excitement is about Madison. She's finally getting her shot. She's on the verge of a financial comeback. Madison gave a nervous smile, and my heart pounded with dread. We've been talking about this for months. My father continued. Her and Elizabeth and I decided to help Madison get back on her feet. We took out a mortgage on the house to pay off her gambling debts. The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. What? Isn't it wonderful? My mother said, touching my arm. Madison's getting a second chance. She's about to turn her life around. The room spun violently. My stomach twisted with rage and disbelief. 10 years of sleepless hospital shifts, 10 years of living on instant noodles, 10 years of extra shifts until my feet went numb. My dream of working in global medicine gone. When? My voice cracked with emotion. When exactly did you take out that new mortgage? About 3 weeks ago, my father replied with a dismissive wave. Right after you made the final payment. The timing was perfect. The house had value, and Madison finally had a plan. My mother turned to Madison, asking how it felt to be debt-free. I stood frozen, gripping my glass, watching 10 years of sacrifice vanish in an instant. To Madison. My father raised his glass. To new beginnings. Cheers erupted across the room as I silently calculated how many brain surgeries I performed to help pay off my parents' mortgage, also Madison could gamble again. Christy? My mother said, gently grabbing my arm. Aren't you going to toast to your sister's good fortune? I just need to step out, I whispered. I have to make a call. I slipped into the hallway and, with trembling fingers, dialed a number I had hoped I'd never need. The phone rang twice before a calm voice answered. Nathan Ford speaking. Nathan, it's Christy Johnson. Do you remember the legal protections we established, the ones securing my financial stake in the house payments? I remember, he said, his tone professional but sympathetic. Are you ready to trigger them? Through the hallway door, I could hear Madison talking about her new plans, our parents nodding along eagerly. Yes, I said, my voice barely audible. It's time. I locked myself in the bathroom, pressing my fevered forehead against the cool marble countertop. The sounds of celebration trickled in through the vent. Glasses clinked, laughter swelled, and above it all, I could hear Madison's voice. "Did you secure all the paperwork?" I asked Nathan, trying to steady my voice. "Every payment record, every transaction, every legal document bearing your signature?" He confirmed. "The trust structure is airtight. Legally speaking, that house belongs to you alone." A sharp knock on the bathroom door made me flinch. "Christy? Are you all right?" My mother's worried voice. "Just a minute. It's a work call," I replied. Once I was sure my mother had stepped away, I whispered urgently into the phone. "How soon can we move forward?" "I can have legal notices delivered by Monday morning." "But Christy," Nathan hesitated. "Family legal disputes can get very messy." Through the vent, I heard someone ask, "Where's Madison's sister?" "Her sister?" Another voice answered with thinly veiled disdain. "Oh, you mean the doctor?" "She's always working. Probably buried in patient charts or something." I clutched the phone tighter. "I'm ready, Nathan. Send the documents. Now." After ending the call, I splashed cold water on my flushed face and opened the door. My mother was hovering nearby, visibly anxious. "Madison's just about to share her recovery plan with everyone. Come down and show your support." I followed her downstairs. Madison had completely taken over the living room. The guests encircled her as she explained her grand new start and financial responsibility. "This is just the beginning," she said with newfound confidence. "Once I'm back on my feet, I can finally pursue my real passion." "Remember when Christy wanted to join Doctors Without Borders?" My father chuckled. "I'm so glad she took the wiser path instead. After I got laid off, someone had to keep this family afloat." I remember it vividly. When my father lost his job, I was still a med student. My mother had wept at the kitchen table over possibly losing the house. I had promised I'd help, took on more hospital shifts, gave up sleep and relationships. And now, after 10 years of grinding, sleepless nights, I had finally paid off the mortgage. Only for them to remortgage it instantly, to pay off Madison's gambling debt. "I just got called in for an emergency surgery," I muttered, grabbing my medical bag and heading for the door. I had sacrificed so much for this family. But this time was different. This time I had prepared for the betrayal. By the time I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A text from Nathan, "Legal documents ready for filing Monday morning." Note: once initiated, settlement becomes highly unlikely. I stared at the screen, thinking about the trust paperwork. How Nathan had structured every payment to protect my share. How my parents had signed every document without fully reading them, trusting their doctor-daughter to handle the details. I had prayed I'd never need to act on it. But deep down, I hadn't trusted them enough not to. "Proceed immediately," I replied by text. Then I started the engine and pulled away from the house. Soon, that house would be legally mine alone. When Monday morning arrived, I walked into Nathan's office. He carefully laid out the legal papers on his polished desk. "All filed," he said, adjusting his titanium-framed glasses. "The trust documents clearly designate you as the sole owner. Their new mortgage is entirely void without your signature." When will they be notified? The courier is delivering it today. I signed the final legal document. Hours later, my phone lit up over and over again. My mother, my father, even Madison. A message from my mother. Christy, we got the documents from the attorney. What did you do? Your father is having chest pains. Please call us immediately. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Madison. What the hell, Christy? She snapped before I could speak. You've invalidated the mortgage. I already enrolled in the recovery program. You only ever call me when you need financial rescue, I said coldly. This is completely unfair. Mom and Dad said the mortgage was paid off. That's right. I paid every mortgage bill, every property tax invoice, every repair expense for 10 years. Madison barked back. So what? Now you're sabotaging my recovery? I'm sick, Christy. This was my chance to finally get help. I thought about all the chances I didn't get. You've had more chances than I can count, Madison. And your gambling addiction? That's on you. This time you'll have to fund your recovery on your own. You've always resented me, she hissed. Mom and Dad just believed I needed support. No, I cut in firmly. They coddled you, and they believed your excuses. There's a difference. I kept my voice calm and clear. What about the deposit for the program? It was non-refundable $1,000, she said, her voice breaking. That's not my problem, I said flatly, and hung up. Then the phone rang again. It was my mother. How could you do this? She sobbed. To your own family? That's ironic, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I've been asking myself that same question for the past 10 years. We're your parents. We did what we did to help your sister recover. Why can't you understand that? And what about helping me chase my dream? I asked. A heavy silence settled between us. The legal notice spells everything out, I continued. The house is legally mine. The new mortgage is invalid. If you want to fund Madison's recovery, you'll need to find another way. You've changed, my mother whispered accusingly. I responded. You're right, Mom. I have changed, and this is what family is about, understanding that sacrifices deserve respect. I ended the call and sent a message to Nathan. Is there any chance they could challenge this in court? His reply came quickly. None. The house is yours. The next step is entirely your decision. I stared at my reflection in the window, replaying my mother's words. Had I truly changed, or had I simply stopped allowing myself to be exploited? The next morning, I drove to my parents' house, a folder of documents under my arm. Legally, it was my house now. Their cars filled the driveway: my mother's sedan, my father's SUV, and Madison's leased hatchback. They were waiting for me in the living room. My father paced nervously. My mother sat stiffly at the edge of the couch. Madison curled up defensively in the armchair, her eyes red and puffy. Did you come to celebrate your little victory? Madison asked bitterly as I placed the folder on the coffee table. No, I said calmly. I came to establish clarity. I pulled out the trust documents. This outlines the legal structure through which I paid off the mortgage. Note the dates, the signatures, all notarized and legally verified. My father grabbed the papers. This can't be right. We never agreed to put the house solely in your name. Actually, you did. Remember all those documents you signed without reading because you trusted your daughter to handle things properly? My mother began to cry quietly. Madison stood up, trembling with rage. Do you know what you've done? I committed to that recovery program. I paid a non-refundable admission fee. I made promises to my support group. No one said a word about the money when I was covering the property taxes, replacing the heating system, or fixing the roof leaks. That's completely different, my mother sobbed, cutting in. You were supporting your family. And I am still supporting this family. I'm teaching you a valuable lesson. Read legal documents before signing them. Madison shot up from her chair. This is cruel. Dad, do something. My father kept flipping through the documents, his expression darkening. There has to be a loophole. We'll get our own lawyer. Please do, I replied, pulling out an additional folder. This contains copies of every check I've written, every maintenance bill I've paid, and every hospital shift I worked to keep this house from being foreclosed while Madison was busy gambling. You're just holding a grudge, she snapped. You're jealous because I'm finally getting help and facing my issues. I had dreams too, I said, my voice finally wavering with emotion. I wanted to join Doctors Without Borders. I wanted to provide care in crisis zones. I wanted a life that wasn't just being someone's emergency financial backup. No one forced you to support us, my father said defensively, his tone rising. Really? When I was a med student and you lost your job? When Mom cried every night at the kitchen table over losing the house? When you both emotionally guilt-tripped me while covering for Madison's gambling? The room went silent, except for my mother's muffled sobs. You wanted a house to remortgage? I continued, gathering my documents. Buy one yourself. This one is legally mine. I stood and said, the new mortgage is invalid. You have no legal claim to this property. So what happens now? Madison spat. Are you just going to kick your family out? No, I'm giving you 30 days to make other arrangements. That's more grace than I got when you secretly mortgaged the house I spent 10 years paying off. Please, my mother reached for my hand. We can figure something out. We're family. Don't, I pulled away. Don't lecture me about family obligations. Not anymore. As I turned to leave, Madison screamed behind me. You'll regret this forever. You'll end up miserable and alone. At that moment, my phone buzzed with a message from Nathan. Urgent. Need to speak ASAP about the mortgage filing. I rushed out of the house and met Nathan at a nearby cafe. When he arrived, the place was nearly empty. His expression was unusually grim. He spoke with grave seriousness. You need to understand something fundamental. There's a major secret your family's been keeping from you. What does that mean exactly? I asked, pushing my untouched cappuccino aside. Be specific. You weren't just being used for convenience. You were manipulated into division by someone. I've been digging for weeks, and I finally found the link. Nathan said. Before I could respond, a woman approached us. I recognized her face instantly. Valerie Irving. She had been a colleague of my father's at the company 10 years ago. I had exchanged pleasantries with her once or twice over a decade ago. Her complexion turned ashen when she saw me. There's something I've needed to tell you for a long time. Nathan contacted me. and I agreed to come. "What's going on?" I asked. Hillary spoke quietly. "It's about your parents' house. The new mortgage filing, there's something you need to know." "I already know it's invalid." "No, it's worse than that." She sat on the chair. "The mortgage filed under the pretense of Madison's debt was actually to cover payments your father's been making to a woman, his long-term mistress. He's been embezzling money from the company for years to support her." "What?" I said, stunned. Hillary pulled a heavy brown folder from her bag. "These are the records. Emails, bank transfers, hotel receipts, all of it. Your father trusted me as the company's manager, so I had access. I kept this buried for 10 years. I tried to forget. But when Nathan reached out, I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore." My hands trembled. Nathan placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "How long had it been going on?" I asked. "At least 5 years, Hillary said quietly. "And your father left the company just before anyone could officially question the financial discrepancies." Suddenly, everything fell into place. My father started mentioning a crisis at work right around the time I graduated from med school. That was the first lie. "Thank you, Hillary," I said, reaching out to shake her hand, "for bringing the truth to light." She hesitated, then took it nervously. "Everyone at the company thought George was a good boss. But watching the funds vanish while knowing how much you were sacrificing for your family, it became unbearable." That night, I prepared for the final confrontation. After a detailed strategy session with Nathan, we assembled a large envelope. Inside, every piece of evidence of my father's fraud, along with the legal documentation asserting my sole ownership of the house. A few days later, I returned to the house. My parents and Madison were already there, watching me anxiously as I entered. "Thank you for setting aside time to talk as a family," I began calmly. "I'm here tonight to make my final decision." "Christy, we can talk through anything," my mother said, her voice tight with unease. I placed the envelope on the dining table. "This is something I need you to see before I leave." My father opened it with trembling hands. As he sifted through the documents, I watched the color drain from his face. "What is this?" he asked, his voice unsteady. "The truth," I said. "Hillary gave it to me. This isn't about Madison's debts, it's about your double life. You asked me to cover the mortgage under the guise of her treatment expenses. That was a lie. My sacrifices funded your affair." My mother picked up one of the documents, reading it with disbelief. Her hands began to shake. The blood vanished from her face. "George, is this true?" He stood abruptly and slammed his fist on the table. "This is none of your business. I have a right to privacy." "Privacy?" I said coolly. "I gave up my life, my dream of joining Doctors Without Borders, my happiness, all so you could keep yours secret." Madison sat in stunned silence, reading the pages in front of her. "So I was just the scapegoat," she said quietly, her voice trembling with rage. "Mom and Dad always talked about my debts, my problems, my treatment. But all along it was about covering your hidden life." She looked up at me, eyes full of tears. "Christy, I didn't know, I swear." "This is ridiculous." My father shouted. "These documents are fake. Hillary's trying to ruin me." "Unfortunately for you, they're not fake," I said, pulling out the final piece of evidence. "This is a bank-certified confirmation." The payments listed as Madison's treatment were actually routed to an account belonging to Linda Morrison. You also rented an apartment for her 5 years ago. She's even listed as the guarantor on your secondary lease. My mother began to weep softly. How could you do this to us? My father stood violently, heading for the door. I don't have to sit here and be interrogated like this. Don't leave, I said firmly. There's one more document in that envelope, a notarized certificate invalidating the mortgage, and a copy of the criminal complaint I intend to file with the police. He froze in place. You what? You committed fraud, embezzled company funds, submitted false information to the bank, and worst of all, deceived me into giving up 10 years of my life. There is no choice left. Tomorrow I'm filing it formally. You're going to send your own father to prison? My mother asked, her voice shaking. I'm going to reveal the truth, I said. And I'm going to seek justice. Suddenly, Madison stood up and moved beside me. I'm with Christy, she said. Her voice was clear, steady, strong. You turned us against each other and you made me the scapegoat and chained Christy to a sense of obligation. That ends now. My father looked at us, a mixture of anger and fear on his face. This is a family matter. We don't need to involve the police. Financial crime is not a family matter, I said firmly. You're a fraud and I won't protect you anymore. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. My father was arrested on charges of bank fraud and embezzlement. The news spread quickly throughout our small town. During the trial preparation, Madison moved into my apartment. She was serious about rebuilding her life. I still can't believe it, she said one evening as we ate dinner at my kitchen table. All this time we thought we were enemies. But really, we were both victims. Dad kept us divided to hide his actions, I said. Classic divide and conquer. I look back on my life and feel ashamed, she admitted. I had real issues, yes, but some of those came from being part of this twisted family dynamic. On the day of the trial, we stood together in court. My mother sat in the back row, silent through the entire hearing. The judge delivered a harsh sentence, 5 years in prison and full restitution of the embezzled funds. After the verdict, our mother approached us. Christy Madison, she said, her voice weary. I'm so sorry. I can't claim I didn't see it, but I wanted to believe George. I needed to believe him. Mom, I said calmly. You made a choice, and choices come with consequences. From now on, I won't be providing financial support. You need to live your own life. But what am I supposed to do? She asked, her voice small. Get a job, Madison said gently but firmly. Like I did. I'm working as a barista at a coffee shop. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. Months later, I finally submitted my application to Doctors Without Borders. Madison helped me with the last of the paperwork. You're really going? She asked, placing a stamp on the envelope. I've dreamed of this for so long, I said with a smile. It's time. I'll miss you, she admitted. But I'll take care of the house while you're gone. I smiled. I'm going because I want to, not because I feel like I have to. That's the difference. And I'm staying because I want to, Madison said. For the first time, I think we're finally truly sisters. That night, we sat together on the porch, looking up at the stars. For the first time in a decade, I felt free, free from the burden of responsibility that was never fairly mine, free to live a life that belonged to me. And most of all, free to build a new relationship with Madison, one not rooted in guilt or duty, but in mutual respect. "Thank you," Madison whispered, "for believing in me." "We're just getting started," I replied. One